Hello, my name is Mike Goodwin. I'm the Chief Executive of North East Derbyshire District Council, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Council's new Shaping the Future initiative. I'm going to lead you through a presentation that will talk about the indices of multiple deprivation and what the needs of our communities are. The role of local government is many and varied, and we have both statutory services and our softer side of services as well. The statutory ones, like the collection of bins or the processing of planning applications, we're very good at and have been very good at for many, many years. The issues that I want to talk about today surround health inequalities and how they can be reduced in terms of local government and how it can actually get involved in delivering that to our local communities. In 2007, the Council produced its document around the needs of North East Derbyshire District Council in partnership with Sheffield Hallam University. This piece of work, called Shaping the Future, actually updates that document and takes it forward over the next 5 years to produce our new corporate plan. So, what is Shaping the Future? Shaping the Future is an in-depth view of the residents' needs within North East Derbyshire. It looks at the indices of multiple deprivation and it maps them onto the social determinants of health and well-being and brings in the Marmot report that was produced in 2010 earlier this year. We've also placed a lot of emphasis on the wants of the people of North East Derbyshire as well, as determined by the place survey that was produced a couple of years ago. From time to time there are also tensions between what the wants of the district residents are and what their needs actually are, and I'll come along and explain that a little bit later in this video. We were also keen that the Sustainable Community Strategy produced by our local strategic partnership also mapped onto the Shaping the Future document in the correct way. And we have also taken account of a lot of the new legislation that's coming through from the government. I've mentioned Marmot before, but it also looks at things like the Place Shaping Report from Lyons in 2007. First of all, I'd like to start by looking at the national agenda. And from my point of view, the national agenda splits into 4 main areas at this point in time. The first area is around total place, and I've already mentioned Michael Lyons' report in 2007, but as far as I'm concerned, place can be viewed from 2 different angles. One is a geographic angle, and the other is a themed angle. Both are relevant and both have their place. My presentation today is more around the geographical angle, looking at the needs and the wants of a particular community rather than a theme across a wider area. The second item of the national agenda is localism. Localism is about determining what our communities require at the grassroots level. If we can identify the issues at the grassroots level, then we can target our resources to make sure we address the problems of our communities. The third area of the national agenda, from my perspective, is that of partnership working. The residents of North East Derbyshire are the residents of not just the District Council, but also our other partners like the County Council, the Primary Care Trust and the police. And it means that all of us have to work together if we're to be successful in changing cultures and raising aspirations of those communities. We need to share the resources that we've got, and we need to share the expertise for the benefit of those communities. The last item of the national agenda is the myriad of legislation that's coming out from the government at this point in time, particularly around the Marmot Review. The Marmot Review talks about a fair society and healthy lives. It talks of a long-term whole system approach, and I think that's exactly right. We need to address all of the issues of our community and not just any one individual strand. It strengthens the role and impact of ill health prevention. At this point in time, only 4% of the national health spend is on preventative care. 96% is on reactive care. Marmot also encourages all children and young people to live healthy and active lives. It looks for creating fair employment and good working conditions and making sure that everyone has a healthy living standard. So why did we produce Shaping the Future? Members of North East Derbyshire District Council wanted an evidence-based approach in terms of targeting their resources rather than political ideology. The report also assists with prioritisation of resources and, more importantly, deprioritisation. It also looks at resource allocation and helps with the partnership framework. So, what does that mean for North East Derbyshire? I'm going to tell you a little bit about North East Derbyshire and its profile. we have just less than 100,000 population and an area of 258 square kilometres. It's largely rural and based around 4 towns, 3 of them in the north, Dronfield, Eckington and Killamarsh, and 1 in the south, which is Clay Cross. We have 24 parishes, 25 wards and 53 elected members. We have a central location in the country with excellent road and rail links to the centre of the district. I'd now like to go on and talk about some of the findings that are coming out of the report itself. We have looked at all of the 6 indices of multiple deprivation, and I'll talk about those individually in just a moment. But the overall indices of multiple deprivation shows the council about average. Overall, we have 6 areas within the top 20% of deprived communities within the whole of the UK. Our IMD ranking is 185, so that puts us round about halfway. But within that, there are areas that have serious deprivation within North East Derbyshire. Almost 10% of our population lives within that 20% most deprived. If we look at demographics, the council has an ageing population. If you look at the graph in front of you, the green bars show North East Derbyshire's age profile, and the red line is that of the England average. And you can see between the ages of 20 and 35 that there is a serious deficit in terms of the number of younger people living within the district. Conversely, if you look at 55 plus, then you have considerably older people living within North East Derbyshire, and that brings considerable problems to us as a district in terms of healthcare, housing, etc. If we look at moving that on 10 years, you will see from the graph in front of you that the ageing population exacerbates over the next 5 years and then 10 years, so that by 2018 we have almost 1/3 of our population that are over the age of 55. In terms of the indices of multiple deprivation, for economic conditions and prosperity, we have 7 areas within the top 10% most deprived in the UK. This indices is split into 2 areas. One is employment and one is income. In terms of employment, we rank 123rd out of 354. In terms of income, we rank 169 out of 354. Neither of them puts us in the most deprived within the UK overall, but there certainly are elements within North East Derbyshire, some of our wards, that are in the top 10% most deprived. In fact, we have 7 of those wards in the top 10% most deprived. We have 14 of our wards in the top 20% most deprived. Some real issues for us to face. In terms of income, 7 areas are in the 20% most deprived. Almost 60% of our population is at working age. 40% is not, and therefore not contributing to the economic prosperity of the district. In terms of education and training, again we have 7 areas that are in the 10% most deprived in the UK. Another further 9 of those areas sit within the 20% most deprived, and our IMD ranking is that of 130th out of 354. Over a quarter of our population live within the 20% most deprived areas, and almost 11% of that population do not have any qualifications whatsoever. In terms of health, we have 3 areas within the top 10% most deprived in the UK. Our life expectancy drag is 8 years between the worst and most deprived area and the more affluent area of the district. The graph that you see before you shows Renishaw at 74.7 average life expectancy, going up to Wingerworth and Colaston that has an 82.7 years life expectancy. That is the 8-year gap that I'm talking about. If we turn to male life expectancy within North East Derbyshire, the green line on the graph is North East Derbyshire's life expectancy for males, and the maroon line is the England average. And as you will see, we are fairly close to that average as we go through from 1991 up to 2007. However, if we move to female life expectancy, a different story is told. The North East Derbyshire average, once we get to 2000, dips consistently below the England average. We don't know what the answer to that is yet, but it is an area that we need to investigate and decide how to address. The work that we've done around Shaping the Future has given us a tremendous amount of information about the needs and wants of North East Derbyshire. What it has also done as well, though, is to point to areas where we don't have significant problems. For instance, in terms of crime, We have no areas within North East Derbyshire which are in the top 20% most deprived areas for crime. North East Derbyshire is a very, very safe place to live. Our IMD ranking is 280 out of 354, and nearly half our population live in the least 20% deprived within the UK. Police confidence levels in North East Derbyshire are extremely high. The only area of concern is that of the perception of crime. And this will be an area that we'll need to look at when we're targeting our resources, whether we concentrate on crime prevention or whether we look at a marketing campaign to tell people just how safe it is to live in North East Derbyshire. Again, with the environment, we have nobody within the 20% most deprived within the UK. Our IMD ranking is 290th out of 354, and 40% of our population live within the least 20% deprived in the UK. Again, with housing, very few areas within the top 20%. One area in particular is of concern to us, and that is Ashover. And Ashover, for those who don't know the district, is very similar to a chocolate box village, very, very affluent, but the issue there is around affordable housing and people who grow up within Ashover being able to stay within that community. So even though from a housing point of view deprivation is not an issue, there are some things that we do need to sort out. Our IMD ranking for housing is 296th out of 354, which puts us into the top quartile quite easily. 40% of our population almost lives within the least 20% deprived. Now I want to look at one of our areas which has considerable deprivation, and that is of Grassmoor. And Grassmoor sits within the top 10% of deprived communities within the UK for skills and training, employment and for health. The average life expectancy for somebody in Grassmoor is 76.6 years of age, and that is towards the lower end of our life expectancy range. Grassmoor has higher than average deaths from chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, coronary heart disease, circulatory diseases. Also premature deaths from acute myocardial infarction and cancer. Levels of obesity are very high, and emergency hospital admissions overall are high, but also in the over 65 age group. We asked the residents of Grassmoor what is most important in making somewhere a good place to live, and their view was that clean streets, the level of crime, affordable and decent housing and health services were really important. We then asked what most needs improving in Grassmoor, and they told us that activities for teenagers, roads and pavement repairs and the level of crime needed addressing. If we look back to what the needs of Grassmoor are rather than the wants, they're around skills and training, improved health services and improved employment. This is the tension that I spoke about earlier between the needs of a particular area and what the wants of the residents of that area are. Both of them are equally important, and as a district council we need to address both of them. The information that we've gained from the Shaping the Future report will be critical to how the council takes forward its corporate plan for 2011 to 2015. We will be talking to all of our partners, particularly the County Council, the Primary Care Trust and the police, to work with us to see how we can actually address the needs of our residents, how we can raise the aspirations of the community and how we can change cultures in those communities. We already have a number of initiatives that are working very well in our communities, particularly our Working Communities project. And I would refer anyone to look on YouTube at the Working Communities project. I hope you found the video useful, and if you'd like to find out further information about our Shaping the Future initiative, then please visit North East Derbyshire District Council's website. Thank you for listening.